Can you see it okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Welcome to the virtual opening for our new exhibitions at Pomo Arts. I'm the gallery manager, Janice Cotter. Before we start, I'd like to express gratitude to Pomo Arts Board of Directors, as well as say how thankful we are for our longtime supporters, the City of Port Moody, the Province of British Columbia for their support through the Community Gaming Program, as well as the Government of Canada for their support through the Canada Summer Jobs Program and Peller Estates. In addition, we want to thank our 2021 gallery sponsor, Edgar Development. Well, we've had wonderful news that public health orders are going to be relaxing, but for now, we're still going to keep doing our virtual events at Pomo Arts, along with our hybrid exhibitions, so that you can enjoy the shows in person or on our website through the digital gallery for each exhibition. You can just click on the exhibition page for the artists and then scroll down to the digital gallery and view their whole exhibition, all the artwork in the exhibition that way, and learn about the artists as well. You can also support our artists by letting people know about their exhibitions and inviting them to attend, or by purchasing their artwork over the phone or in person. Thank you so much for joining us on this wonderful evening. It's a little cooler tonight. I hope everyone has survived. We've all been sharing our heat wave stories before we started. Tonight we have 3 exhibitions that did open today and will run from June 30th to August 11th. The gallery is open daily except for the statutory holidays on July 1st and August 5th. Tonight you'll meet some of the artists, Marney Rose Edge, Claire Sower, and Ryan Wagner. Unfortunately, Ron Love's internet line went down and repairs can't be done until Monday, so you won't meet him this evening, but I'll tell you a bit about his show and when his artist talk is. Then we'll show a video of Marney Rose and Claire's artist talk, and afterwards we'll have time for a discussion and answer any questions you might post on Facebook. We're going to start with Ryan Walter Wagner. The work for his exhibition Through the Window was created in the early lockdown of 2020. I'm going to invite Ryan to tell us a bit about himself and the show. Ryan, you can unmute yourself. It's so wonderful to see you. And please give us a teaser about your exhibition.
Well, like you mentioned, I started a portrait project at the beginning of the pandemic last year when a lot of my regular photography work ended. I just wanted to work on a personal project. So that's what this exhibit is. The first time being shown, we did publish a book that will be available in the gift shop at Pomo of the photographs. And I'm going to be doing my artist talk and tour of the show on July 15th at 7:15 p.m. I believe it's through Facebook Live as well, or yep.
Yep.
And yeah, so come down and see the show. We also built a window that you can take your own portraits at when you come and see photos of other people behind their windows at home. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you, Ryan. It's great to see you. Now, you had also talked about possibly having a day where you could invite people to come, but we'll still finalize that, and then we can put that information out on social media as well. So thank you so much for coming this evening, and we will see you on July 15th.
For sure. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Bye. Oh. Whoop. Okay. Oh, it is me on there. Sorry, I'm seeing something different on my screen. Thanks, thanks so much to Ryan. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about Ron Love. When Ron Love retired from a long and successful career as an architectural illustrator and designer, he wanted to expand beyond his usual painting practice and explore fresh mediums to use his creative talents. He turned his artistic bent to designing colorful and enchanting wooden creatures, houses, and machines. Concepts for his fantastical creations began with drawings and are brought to life using hand and power tools. Although he's been working on this series for a while, his imagination went wild during the pandemic, and he's created so many new pieces for his exhibition, Whimsy in Wood and Paint. Ron will join us in the gallery for his virtual artist talk on July 22nd, and it will stream live to Facebook. I hope you'll be able to join us for both Ryan's artist talk on July 15th and Ron's artist talk on July 22nd on Facebook Live. The links, the Facebook event links are on our Facebook page. And we will post the links to their exhibition pages in the Facebook comments tonight. So now on to tonight's artist talk for Garden Escapes. And many thanks to Marney Rose Edge and Claire Sower for coming to the gallery so we could film the artist talk. Also, I'd like to thank Caitlin Hill, Pomo Art's marketing coordinator. She's the person who's been filming and editing the artist talks we've been doing for the past 15 months. Also, for the May and June exhibition installations, I'm so grateful that I've had Kat Waddell here to help. She's the gallery assistant through the Canada Summer Jobs Program until early August, and she's just really been a lifesaver through all these really busy days. Anyway, tonight I'd like to welcome Marney Rose Edge and Claire Sower. How are you ladies?
Great, thank you.
Claire, you're still muted, my dear.
Yeah, there we go. Sorry.
Okay.
Yes, sorry about that.
Okay. So you are both surviving the heat.
Yes.
Yes.
I ended
Okay.
up being exhausted yesterday.
Yes. Well, you haven't seen the video for the artist talk yet. So why don't we play the video, and then we can talk about some of the things we discussed earlier a few days ago, some things we wanted to discuss, as well as what was in the video, and as well as answer any questions that people might have on Facebook. So how does that sound?
Great.
Okay, so I'm going to get you both to mute, and then I will also mute once I get this going, and we'll join back when the video's over. Okay. Okay.
Hi, I'm Claire Sower. And I'm Marney Rose Edge. And welcome to Garden Escapes. The concept for Garden Escapes was about, it's a celebration of gardens and nature and beauty. And we wanted to explore spaces in macro and micro scapes, as it were, ponds and flowers. And because Marney Rose paints in such a different way from myself, their styles are very different, we thought it would be really complementary and very interesting to see how you can interpret a space so differently, and what it means to do. And I think during COVID, it became even more important.
Yes, especially for our mental health, because the peacefulness of gardens and parks and, you know, whether it's public or private spaces, it really calms down. The anxiety that everyone's felt in the last year has been amplified. We wanted to share that feeling of calmness and peacefulness, and to really take a deep breath of fresh air within, and these paintings surround you with that feeling.
Yeah, they envelop you in color and beauty, and it's just, it's like being in the garden. And they were so much fun to paint.
Yes.
Just, it was such a great experience to be able to interpret a beautiful space and render it as beautifully as possible.
Yes.
You know, the message didn't have to be political, it didn't have to be you're solving world problems. It's just the celebration of the beauty of nature in a time when we can all use some good news and some positive inspiration.
Yeah. So we want to involve the community by having the photo call out, where we would call for people to share their spaces of tranquility that they have enjoyed during this stressful time, and really give us the opportunity to be able to paint from those photographs and include them within the show. So we managed to paint close to a dozen of the images submitted, and you'll be able to see all of the images submitted from different photographers or neighbours in the community on our exhibition page on the Polo Arts website. So this is stargazing. These lilies are actually from my garden, and they're in a vase, which is very rare for me to do a still life. I had this in a drawer for 7 years before it got finished. I gave up on it because I could not figure out how to finish it 7 years ago. So, and this I have archivally varnished with UV protective varnishing. It's actually mounted onto a wood cradle and framed contemporarily, so that you don't have the reflection of you in the glass, but it's they're totally fine to wash down with a damp cloth, not wet, but there are 7 coats of varnish on there to protect it.
This is one of my larger pieces in the show. It's called Garden by Moonlight, and it started off as a photo of some plantings in a roundabout near where I live. And I did the background, so it's oil and coal wax, and I paint predominantly in oil paint. I did the background, and I needed it to be dark, and it started sort of transforming into a hedge. And my paintings tend to take on a life of their own. They tell me what they want it to be. I start out with a great intention, but it ends up being something else. And this is a really good example. This is not a roundabout in daylight. It's a hedge with some plantings, obviously in front of it. And I use, for a lot of the work, I use a little rubber tool that you use to scrape pots out with. And I find that I can get a lot of movement and a lot of different techniques into the paint with that tool. And I just love the freedom of being able to do this kind of thing, hence all the upright flowers. But I really like it. It's, to me, if I was sitting on a bench in a garden with the stars out and the moonlight shining, this is what I would want to be looking at.
So again, this is a watercolour that is archivally varnished, just as the stargazing painting that I first talked about. And this one's called Luscious Lipstick, and those hot pinks just reminded me of somebody getting dressed up with bold pink lips and going out on the town.
This piece, called Pond Light, also called Lilies, is a part of a series, one of a series of paintings I've done called Pond Song, Pond Light. And it's just a micro sphere of water lilies, which I absolutely love to paint. And it's just layers and layers of blues and greens, and no surprise the inspiration was Monet. But I just absolutely love to paint lilies, and I think there's, and the depth of the different colors, you know, the tonality, yes, so this was a lily piece, and there are several in the show, because we wanted to do water gardens and ground gardens, and, you know, all things garden in different contexts, so. Lilies.
This is called Jardin d'Eau. It's a water garden in our own backyard. So we built the pond, and the water lily is a beautiful one, and we do have fish in there too. The process, so this is one of 2 acrylics that I have in the show, and the process is quite reductive, which means I put paint on and then I sprinkle water and take paint off to give it that patterning. And glazing is always building up layers. It's a really interesting patterning that comes out of the reductive process. So we've had frogs in the pond as well, but at the moment it's just fish. And I hope you enjoy. Roses are my favorite flower. This is a watercolor, and these are oils. And I've got 17 roses in my own garden, and I love visiting all the rose gardens around the cities that we're so fortunate to have. This is why it's like I want you to smell the roses, because it's it just comes out of them, and I love painting them with so much joy.
This piece is called Walk With Me, and it is the second piece I did in the series for this show. And I'm starting to get into a little bit of abstraction around the landscape. So there's no literal interpretation of bushes or flowers. There's just you know, patches of color, you know, passages of water and grass and sky. There's a horizon line, and I stood back and looked at it as it is now. I thought, I don't want to add any more detail to it because I think it just works on its own. And I called it Walk With Me because I thought, oh, this was in lockdown when we're all, you know, we can't go anywhere, we can't see anybody, and I would just like to be in that field walking on a sunny day, feel the warmth of the sun on my shoulders, and, you know, just in that space, that calm space. So this is called the Koi Pond, and it's the very first piece I did for the series. And ironically, I started it a year ago, and I got stuck. I couldn't figure out how to finish it. The composition wasn't working, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to turn it to the wall and not look at it for a year. And then when I started painting for the show, I brought it back out and I was looking at it, and I thought, you know, that looks like a koi, and this looks like a pond. And then I could see in my mind where I could take the subject and the composition, and it just fell into place in about, you know, a few hours. This is oil on panel with cold wax, and I love the texture. I tend to leave my panels quite rough. I gesso them, but I sand them down a little bit, but not too much, because I really like the texture. And it also adds to that sort of emergence, that sense of emergence of the work coming through the substrate. So the koi pond.
Nests are part of who I am, and I've painted nests for a long time, and I wanted to include them in the show because they are still part of nature and the cycle of life, and we've got birds in the show as well, so it really shows a connection to family and the home, and these are all just things that come to mind that connect us all to nature.
This piece, called The Sanctuary, is the third piece I did in the series. And again, it has a sky. So one of 3 pieces that has a sky and a horizon line in it. And I was working off photographs from British magazine, House and Garden magazine, which I just love. And this is sort of a variation on a theme, but it was a garden with lots of flowers planted in the grass, and I love that there was color to the grass. You could see these sort of red poppies, and so they're sort of, I've done a few of them in the grass, obviously not overloaded them. Again, playing with abstraction, a little bit of abstraction with the subject matter. So it's not too literal, flattening the sort of scape in some areas. And, you know, tall grasses, and there's a hedge, and who knows what lies beyond it, but it doesn't matter because you're in the sanctuary. This piece is the last piece I painted in this series. And it started off as something else, and I'm not going to say what. But when I got to the foreground here, I used a completely different technique for the lilies. I'd never done it before, and I was watching them emerge as I was scraping the paint across the bottom of the canvas, and I thought, ah, this will inform the rest of the piece, which in fact it did. So the composition changed entirely as a result of what happened down here, when I thought I was at the end of the piece. So I listen to music when I paint, and I have a bit of a passion for U2. So I was listening to It's a Beautiful Day, and there's a line in that song called Take Me to That Other Place. I thought, you know, that's what I want to call this, that other place. So it's, yes, it's very peaceful, and I learned some new tricks when I was painting it.
So the hummingbirds are very key to our garden and a lot of people's gardens, and this is the first time I've painted them, and these were from photo submissions. I just fell in love with the macro versions of the photographs, and this is my artistic interpretation of them. Janice has put a wonderful little hanging together here with the wild poppies, and the wild poppies came from outside the elementary school in New Westminster. They always feel very free, very wild. So I wanted to have, and colourful, right? So having that colour, that everything works so well together. These are oils, all of them are oils, just with a brush, but different formats to see how they can really capture more of the essence with having the little circles and the square together.
Okay, so these two pieces, this is called Where the Wild Grasses Grow, and this is Splendor in the Grass. And it's an ode to the humble grass plant, or not so humble in some cases, because I think grass is, the color green is the most restful color to the eye, that the iris doesn't have to expand or contract to see it. And so both of them emerged on their own from photographs that I have found, you know, in my reference library. And this one, I laid in the green, the dark green, blue-green background, and then I went in and I put in cadmium, chartreuse, and I just loved it as is. And it reminded me of sunlight hitting a patch of grass in the garden. You say, oh, I think I'm going to sit there, just sit in the grass for 15 minutes. And that's what that is for me, restful space. And grass on its own is actually quite attractive. And this started off as a field of grass, and I added flowers to it as I went, just to lift it. But it's the same process. It's let's think about grass, and it's not just about the flowers. It's the backdrop to our gardens is green. It's nature. It's grass. It's trees. It's the stems of plants are green. So and then this in the background, the flowers just sort of trail off into the trees in the background, more green.
So here we have my favourite subject once again, which is roses, and I just love roses. So this is the largest painting of roses that I've done. I have in oils and overall, because 4 feet was the largest ones I had painted before in watercolour. So it really stretched me to go that much bigger, and finally got finished in time for the show, which I'm so excited about. So what I love most is that this shows is a prime example of what I love about roses, is that you get them from the bud and the youth coming in, to the fragility of them fading. It really captures the entire age spectrum, a passage in time. And that's one of the most beautiful things about roses. And these fascinate me. The deadheads actually fascinate me more than the full blooms, because the fragility of those petals, of how they're crumpling and drying over time, they have so much movement in them, and I love that movement. And these are the smallest, so we have quite the contrast. And just how the light fills the petals, the translucency of petals, what I love to capture. So I think that with the colour and everything, that these have accomplished that. They're from various gardens around the different cities, and including my own. This one's from my garden, and this one is from my garden as well. Thank you. So this wonderful little grouping is actually from the submissions of photos from people in the community, which I absolutely adored, and being able to interpret them in a different way from the photograph just gives life and a contrast between a photograph and a painting, because I work mostly from photographs. I draw from life, but I do paint from photographs, because flowers tend to, you know, wilt and pass very easily. So the dahlia I particularly loved, and being able to get it larger than life with so much more vibrancy than what the reference had, and cropping it slightly differently to the artist who photographed it. And bringing in the ladybug, which is, you know, when I grew up, yeah, it was ladybug, ladybug, fly away home, your house is on fire and your children are alone. So it brought back childhood memories for me. And butterflies, and they're all within the garden themselves, so it really adds to the escaping into a garden with the different little critters and insects that we have.
This is Midnight Lilies, and it's the first in the Lilies series. I did some Lilies, so Pond Light, which I just spoke about, was the second one, and I was inspired to do that from this. So this is one of the largest canvases. It's not the largest I've done, but it's getting up there. And I was inspired as much by the size of the canvas as I was by the subject matter, because I thought I just wanted to celebrate lilies in all their glory and color, and the wonderful colors they come in. Again, Monet inspired, of course. And I call it midnight lilies because the water is sort of it's not a midnight lily, but it, with a bit of light, you know, it's an evening, midnight-ish kind of a feel to it. And it was just such a joy to paint. Again, scraping color across the canvas. You see, I had to stop myself from adding more flowers, because more lilies, because they are just so much fun to do. But this was the first Lilies piece, and it was done actually done a couple of years ago. In fact, and it's inspired me to do more. So you can see if you come to the show. This piece is called Dreamland, and it's one of my personal favorites, actually. There's a story behind it, and that is, a long time ago in a land far, far away, I used to write for a living, and I still do write, but I had an editor who went on to do travel writing, and he posted a photograph on Facebook of this statue in a garden in a plantation in New Orleans, just outside New Orleans actually, in Louisiana, and I was captivated by the light. It was magic hour, and the whole fountain was uplit, and there were trees, and it was just stunning. It was so beautiful. I thought, I've got to paint that. So this is my interpretation of my colleague's photograph. And I posted it to Facebook, and I sent him a little message, and I said, this is from your photograph that you took about a year ago, and this is my interpretation of it. And thank you so much for posting it. And I also sent a JPEG off to the owners of the plantation. I never heard anything, but I just wanted them to see, you know, an interpretation of some of this, you know, part of their garden, because this plantation has extensive grounds. I think it's now used for weddings and things like that. But interestingly, when I was painting the statue, I wanted him to rest. I wanted him to feel like he was resting in this nest of beauty, flowers. And I thought, it kind of speaks to death in a way. This boy holding a golden goose, has he just arrived and settled down and gone to sleep? And if so, would he bother to wake up and move on? If he found himself in a place of such beauty, would you bother to move? Or has he been there for a very long time and he's just about to wake up and move on? And I thought it poses that question, and there's no answer, which is what I love about it. So I love this piece, and you know, I absolutely love everything about it, and I'll stop going on about it now.
So I want to talk about this painting called Anticipation. The heron is from Stanley Park, and it was just, it was out there, and it's like, you know, just gonna see what fish I can catch today. But having that morning light and again, that reductive process that I've included. This is the second acrylic piece that's in the show, and it really shows that focus that the bird has, and to be able to include birds in the show was a goal of mine to have as part of nature and what we like to do and see. And these are such big birds. When they fly, they look like they're dinosaurs still. They really, pterodactyls. And the series of 3 lilies here are from our pond. And I just really wanted to capture a close-up and different angles of them. They can hang separately, they don't have to be together at all, but they really gave me the opportunity with painting in oils to go very bold with colour, but very soft with the petals themselves, and having that juxtaposition of the palette knife in the background to show just the rest of the pond very abstractly.
Okay.
This piece, Cottage Garden, started life as a field, an open field. And very often my paintings I'm an intuitive painter, so the paintings morph as I paint, and they tell me what they want. I can see what's happening, what's coming forward with the paint as I'm working. So the original composition very often gets shelved halfway through the process. And so, as I say, this was originally an open field with a hedge, and I could see different things emerging to the composition that it is now. And I also deliberately left pieces of the canvas, the gessoed canvas, coming through to use the negative space, as it were, to create light points in the canvas, so in the painting. And it's just interesting to me how, I know the photograph, there was this field of flowers going up like this, and then a hedge, and then sky, and this is actually what ended up being the finished work. So it's an interesting process, I think. I just follow the paint, and it shows me where it wants to go, most of the time.
So we want to thank Janice kind of very much for having us exhibit here, and we want to thank you all for, if you can make the show, it would be wonderful, and to enjoy it and to give us feedback, or just stop and smell the roses.
Thank you for coming. We really appreciate it, and supporting the arts during this time, and we hope you enjoy the work, and thank you for listening to us and taking the time out of your day to spend some time in garden escapes.
Well, ladies, that was lovely.
Did you enjoy the walk through the garden?
I did. I hope all our visitors did. But, you know, I have to tell you, there are 3 people who didn't enjoy the walk through the garden because they were here in person. There were 2 ladies that came in just before the video started, and they were all dressed up and looking forward to an opening reception, and they walked around and enjoyed their tour. And then we had another in-person visitor who was the former curator and director of Silk Gallery and our very own Councillor Zoe Royer from the city of Port Moody, who's also our city liaison, came for a visit to tour the exhibition as well, and has said to give her best to both of you. So that was very nice that she was able to come. Her office, she has an office across the street, so often pops in to see. So that was nice that she got in. Anyway, what did you think of the video?
It's great. I think you've done a fabulous job. I thank you so much. I mean, the work, all of it looks amazing, and you made it. I'll speak for myself. Made it look very good. Yeah, I love the lawnmower in the background. Just that's the authentic touch, right? Yeah.
Remember when we heard all those car horns honking, and I said it sounded like a wedding? It was actually, I found out later, it was a retirement party. So everything from lawnmowers and the zap strappers, or whatever, the weed trimmers, and the horns honking, and I think the garbage truck went by. It was definitely a bad time to be filming. Anyway, you guys did great. You're so wonderful, very natural, and you know, proceeded through it wonderfully. Now, one of the things we talked about discussing afterwards. Oh my goodness, you've got tons of comments here. Let me just check for questions through. But first, I wanted you to talk about you wanted to talk about the timelines, the exhibition, and also the photo call, those types of things we had talked about discussing afterwards.
Well, the timeline I think is interesting because originally we had planned, we approached you about doing a show, Garden Escapes, in February, I think 2020, right? We met to discuss it. And then shortly thereafter, it was March, around, I don't even remember exactly, middle March, it was COVID, full on COVID, shut down. And it was like, we thought, oh, well, it's not going to happen. And then you got it back in touch with us at the end of, when was it? It was was it when was it? Last fall? Gosh, my brain's gone.
Last fall, but it was
Yeah.
supposed. So originally we were slated for 2021, but because of COVID, everything got pushed by a year. So we thought 2022 was actually when this was going to happen. And then Jan contacted us in the fall and said, would you like to exhibit in 21? And we're like, oh yeah.
Yeah. And we thought that it would actually, we talked about it. I remember this, saying how much more relevant it would be during COVID and having just come through the, the lockdown. Ironically, it's actually quite ironic that the show opens the day before masks, the whole mask, law regulations are loosened, because everybody was meeting outdoors for months and months and months, right? You couldn't buy patio furniture, all the gas heaters had gone. Like, gardens were where they were the new living room. And so it's very interesting, it's very timely, and it's quite ironic, I think. So yeah.
Now we should probably announce some of the people that you selected photos from the photo calls. We had 21 photographers submit works, and you, sorry, what? Oh, I thought somebody said something.
Nope.
Nope, okay. And you selected, Marney Rose did some of the pieces, and Claire has had quite a few schedule life interruptions that have delayed her work, but she has 2 pieces that will be entering the show, but a bit late because the heat also impedes working with oils. So in mid-July, there'll be 2 pieces from the photo submissions that will be coming into the show. Correct? That's
Correct.
still,
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely. Yeah.
So I just didn't want to announce any artists or photographers if anything had changed, which is why we're kind of late we've been late in announcing them. So at this point, we have 2 photographs by Port Moody artist Robert Sondergaard, and one of them is Morning Light, and it is Marney Rose's watercolor of daisies. And the second one is Flutter by a 6x6 oil that is also from one of Robert's photographs. And there is a digital gallery on the Garden Escapes exhibition page that you can scroll through and see all of the photographers' work. Another 6x6 oil by Marney Rose is Heidi Clarkson, New Westminster. Fly Away Home, the little ladybug, is Rich.
Heidi did the hellebore.
Yes, is that not correct?
Yes. Sorry,
Sorry,
just-
did I forget to say that?
I think so.
Heidi, I apologize. Heidi did the hot hellebore, and it is a 6x6 oil. Rich Viggers did photograph of the ladybug, is called Fly Away Home, the oil painting of it. And we have Norm Prince has 2, he submitted 2 photographs of hummingbirds, and one of them is Perched Hummy 6x6 oil, and that's the one of the round ones, and another 6x6 oil of one of his hummingbirds in a 6x6 wood cradle. And then Keith Brown submitted a hummingbird photo, and there's a 4-inch round wood cradle and a 6x6 round. And Diana Paul, I think that's pronounced right, did the photograph for Sassy, the Dahlia, on the 6x12 oil. And then we have 2 pieces that Claire will be putting in. One is called Garden Gate. The photograph was Garden Gate by Deborah Gibson. And the second one is one of Jack Pickle's, I think it's pronounced, I hope I've pronounced that correctly, his Peaceful series, and they were photos taken at the Rose Garden in Queen's Park. And so those 2 will be added to the show in July 15th. So, but you'll be able to see all the photographers' work on the digital gallery on the exhibition page.
I just want to add to that because of the timeline getting shifted, the call ended up being by the end of February this year.
Mhm.
And I printed out a lot more photos than I was able to paint within the time frame that we had. So originally, if it was 2022, we would have had more time, but we got a little bit crunched. Because there were some beautiful photos in the submission.
Yeah. People will be able to scroll through them and see all of the submissions. So I have a question that was posted on Facebook for Marney Rose from Alice Bottrill. And it is Marney Rose, pardon me? Oh, I got some feedback, I guess. Marney Rose, which medium that you find to express which medium do you find expresses your feeling better, oil or watercolor?
They both do. I will always love watercolor. It was my first love, and I absolutely adore painting in watercolor, and I teach watercolor. And oils have just been something that I always thought I would start with oils and ended up leaving that medium till the last. But they both express different things about different subjects and how I feel. So I love them both.
Wow, ladies, you really need to look at these comments on Facebook when you get a chance, because there's some wonderful comments. And oh, and there Zoe's posted too. That she was here and it's nice and cool. Our air conditioning is on.
Works.
Yes.
Well, we were there too.
Yes, it was, but it was kind of nice to have a few people pop in. We're really looking forward to when the day that we can have our in-person opening receptions again. Our capacity's not quite there yet, but we will be able to do some things. We'll let you know as soon as we can. So now, did you guys want to talk about how you collaborated on this? I know there was a lot of thought went into the whole process of how your work balances each other and how you would make it work. Originally, you were talking about working in kind of concepts of various pieces. I know the pond idea. Did you want to speak to that further?
Claire?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we just started painting, really, didn't we? And we got a floor plan. We got a floor plan of the gallery, and we figured out how many linear feet we had. And then we thought, okay, how many paintings? What canvas sizes do we have? What work do we already have that would be appropriate for the show? And then I think we just both went off and did our thing, and then we would check in with each other every so often, right? Just see, well, what have you done, and and it just kind of all came together sort of organically. Would you not agree with that, Marney Rose? I've probably oversimplified it, but
Title was harder to pick than we went through many iterations of what the title would end up being.
that's true. Yeah.
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 And to add the community aspect, and it was a great idea. And I think Claire, you actually came up with that, and I was totally on board. I thought it would add such a different aspect to having a show with that in it. And then we have such a contrast in styles. We just, and we're really good friends, and we just love hanging out together and get along very easily together. So that all came through with the paintings as well. But it was so funny because I was working away on a lot of pinks that I didn't realize I had so many pink paintings, and Claire's doing a lot of green. I'm like, we just have a great combination of pink and green. And the contrast of Claire's very textural work and mine being much smoother, whether I paint in oils, acrylics, or watercolor, they all have that smoothness to them. So we were just blown away when Janice had it hung and we came to visit, and we thought, when we dropped them off, we thought she's going to have a hell of a job, and I'm glad we're walking away. But it was amazing to walk in, and it really feels like gardens, that there's so much there to see in the close-up work and in the vistas that Claire's produced.
And speaking of pink, Claire, painting behind you, Zoe Royer is asking, is that beautiful painting behind you Gigi?
Yes, it is. Gigi.
She has a good memory.
Yes, very good. Yes.
Yeah.
One of my faves. Yes. Gigi. La 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 la. Yeah.
Now that you've seen so many garden photographs, you've done so much research looking at the green spaces and the gardens and the hidden green spaces all throughout Metro Vancouver in the lead up to this. So what are your favorite public gardens in Vancouver or in Metro Vancouver?
Oof. Gosh.
But New Westminster Rose Garden's on my top of the list.
Not
I like-
surprising.
Not surprising. Queen's Park is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a gorgeous park. So
Van
we're very
Dusen.
have it.
Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted. Van Dusen is one of my, but I also like alleys and laneways and places where, because one of the we had discussed, Marney Rose, right? One of the sort of areas we might think about painting was forgotten gardens. Do you remember forgotten,
Yes.
neglected spaces where things just sort of sprout? You know, you walk down an alley and you see this sort of marvelous arrangement of flowers. It's just sort of wildflowers that have just happened to take it, you know, they've taken over the space through sheer force of will and neglect. And they can be, I'm captivated by that kind of thing. And so I love Manicure Gardens, you know, in Vancouver. I like walking around the streets and looking at people's front lawns and as I
Yes.
say, down the alleys as well. But I think that, you know, gosh,
We have a few allotments gardens.
a lot. Yeah, absolutely. Allotments.
And it's
Yeah.
wonderful what people grow in such a small space, and just, you know, because it's of their own garden, or if they're in an apartment, they don't have one, so they can have one, which is wonderful.
So between the two of you, I know you have a lot of inspiration from artists gone by, and both of you, who are your which artists inspire you most?
Marney
Well,
Rose?
past artist Monet. I went to Monet's garden, and one of the roses is actually from his garden, which is called Sunkissed. And I have painted the ponds as well. They're amazing ponds that he has. There's so many living artists as well that inspire, but John Singer Sargent is another one that's passed that I really just love his work. Yeah.
Oh, well, I like you, Monet, and I haven't been to Giverny, but I have been to see some of his lilies, and I think they were at the MoMA and in New York, and I was just, it was so moving. And so, and also Bernard Catlin has been a huge influence on me. He's a French artist. He passed in 2004. More modernist, but colorist certainly. I'm drawn to artists with the color and texture and shape, and not so much the detail. So there's so many. Gosh, Nick de Stael. I don't know. I could go on. David Hockney. I love David Hockney's work. There's, you know, it's pretty out there, and he has an interesting interpretation of nature, I think. So there's many, not enough time, but those are a few of the top hits, top faves.
Okay, then on that note, I'm going to ask each of you, and Claire, since you were just speaking, you may as well continue. What is your favorite piece in the exhibition?
Oh, okay, honestly, okay, it's a toss-up. Am I allowed a toss-up? I have a toss-up between Where the Wild Grasses Grow and Cottage Garden. Those are my two.
Okay. Marney
I
Rose?
think, yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
No, I think because for me, they're a new, I started down a new sort of technique path. I don't know, really, that's not proper English, gosh. But I started painting a different way when I did those two pieces, and a much freer and slightly more, they're not abstract, but they're certainly not, you know, controlled. And for me, they represent a growth and movement.
And on that note, Radiance, which is the watercolor, the white roses and watercolor, and Seventh Heaven, which is the oil. So both are the last paintings that I've completed, and they both show a growth in me. So I think they're very special.
Now, Claire, you work strictly in oil, or
At the moment, yeah.
okay, and Marney Rose, you kind of switch between oil, watercolor, and acrylic, correct?
No, I've really dropped acrylics, but oils and watercolor.
Okay, so then what influences your decision with which medium to use for your subject matter? For both of you.
Well, I would say I don't even think about it. It's just always, I teach in acrylics, but that because it's much easier. It's much easier to learn in acrylics. I think you also can learn a lot more about color with acrylic before you launch into oil paint, which is a whole new discipline, especially getting used to the drying times, but which is an advantage, having a long drying time is in some ways a huge advantage. So I just don't even think about it. I know I'm going to paint in oil. So I don't know. That would be my answer, I guess. It's automatic.
Well,
oil.
Thank you for giving me time, Claire.
I know.
Because
Anytime.
right, it's like, but really, when I have a so when I choose photographs for what I'm going to paint, it's an intuitive gut feeling that, oh yeah, there's just something about it that I have to paint it. There's so much, I don't know if it's excitement that comes in, but intuitively I choose them based on that. And usually a vision will pop into my head as to which medium it will be that, oh, I just want to paint this in watercolor, or I want to paint this in oils, or I want to see if I can, how I can express it in oils. So, and even my watercolor painting is changing because of the oils. So it's really, one informs the other through the processes because they're very similar, but honestly, it's been a really journey of, because I've been painting a lot more in oils in the last year, but I find that one really does inform the other, and it's fascinating to see what it does of how much my watercolors are still growing, because I kind of figured that I was at the pinnacle of where I was, but nope, I've got more to go, which is awesome. I love to grow.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that. And I'm actually, I find it really interesting that both of you considered your most recent paintings your favorite. And I love that you're continuing to learn and move down new paths and take on new challenges artistically.
Can we ask you if you have a favorite of either or both of us?
I like them. I have, I do have favorites, and I believe that we'll have another discussion about that another time.
Well done.
I do, because I love both your work, and it just complemented each other so beautifully. And it was, it was such a joy to put together.
Oh, you've just done.
How it would present to people walking through. So that to me was
well, you've done an amazing job, Janice, honestly. And you've set the work off at its absolute best.
You have to have the work to do that. Anyway, so I guess we're at the point where we could close things down. I just wondered if you wanted to say anything before we go. If you want to say, if you had any more things you wanted to discuss, if you wanted to add a few words, it's up to you.
I just want to say thank you. thank you very, 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 very much for putting the show on and getting excited about it. And for all the people that came to on Facebook, I will go and absolutely look at the comments as soon as I've had some of my delivered chow mein for dinner. Gonna go check it out. And just, I think it's just been such a joy. And I think this is a show that could evolve over time. I think there are more iterations of this that could follow. And so that's something to be thinking about, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'd love to thank Janice for the work that you've done, and I'd like to thank the audience for showing up. And hopefully,
Yeah.
you know, don't actually see it live as well, because there's nothing like seeing art in person. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all very much, and for supporting the arts, and you know, keep gardening.
On this on the first semi-cool evening where it's been bearable to be outside, I appreciate that people joined us this evening, and I hope you'll come back for our Ryan's Talk and Tour on July 15th and Ron Love's Talk and Tour on July 22nd. And thank you again for joining us for this wonderful video with Claire Sower and Marney Rose Edge. And I hope you'll get to see it in person. It is a beautiful escape. Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
good night, everyone.
Night.
Happy Canada Day, etc. Yeah.